and welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you with your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me,
Maria.
I'm Gary.
Benjamin.
Dear listeners, for more than 120 episodes, we've been doing our best to be as useful to you as possible, and we would love to get some feedback about it. So subscribe to our pages on Apple, Yandex, Google, VK, or any other platform where you listen to our podcast, and let us know what you think. How long have you been with us? So what do you think about the changes we've had? What do you think about the new format of 4 people? So you can as well rate and review our podcast. You can give us stars, ask questions, and if you have any ideas about our next episodes, feel free to send them. We're always open to new ideas. It won't take much time or effort, right? But it will help us a lot to become even better, to take the first position in the charts of all the educational podcasts, right? Am I the only one who's like very...
I want to be a VK superstar, so
Let's help Benjamin to become a
help us.
VK superstar.
Yeah. I want to help Benjamin become a VK superstar.
thank you very much. I'm very-
You're welcome.
So show Benjamin some support, a life
It's
goal.
not easy becoming a superstar.
It's definitely not. Almost as difficult as to become, a king or queen in something.
Oh,
Oh.
good segue.
Have you noticed what I did here?
Oh,
Yeah.
man. How could we not notice it?
So we are here today to discuss the royalty. Kings, queens, tsars, monarchies, all that. Do you know much on the topic? Ben should know much on the
I mean, I know the basics, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert on the topic, but I'm interested in the topic nonetheless.
Well, you're supposed to know more than all of us together since you were the one living in the country with a monarchy. So I have a lot of questions to you about it, to be
Well,
honest.
we Americans had a lot to do with that as well.
And I have a lot of
Right?
questions about that too.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Gary,
Yes.
you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I didn't. Right? So maybe I wanted to,
This is
but I
not the
don't
correct
want to.
attitude,
I
when
don't
you're
want to
recording a
anymore.
podcast.
I don't want to anymore. I stopped wanting to. Sorry.
So, first of all, what is a monarchy? So, what the hell is it? What is the difference between monarchy and democracy, for example?
Let's talk about the divisions between what kind of monarchies, because absolute monarchy means that one king had absolute power over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then when there was a war in England, the English said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We have to have a share of powers. Then they became a constitutional monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And
That meant a share of powers, that we had the king and then we had the parliament.
so, and what is the difference between, let's say, a monarchy and some other forms of government?
Well, the monarch is the head of state in a monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas,
It's right. It's mono is one, and arche is like governor. So there's one
Yeah.
person that's kind of the absolute. Not
And he
absolute.
was-
Absolute's a tough word, but
Appointed by the divine.
that was the original idea, right? Yeah, kind of. But yeah, and then there's a tyranny, which is a kind of a rule by one, but without consent. That's the difference. Is that monarchs? There's some kind of an idea. Monarchy. There's an idea of at least some kind of consent, meaning that the people or the nobles or whoever is important consents that this guy is going to be king, for example.
But if it's tyranny, what if a monarch is a tyrant? Is that how
Well,
you say
a
it?
tyrant is a kind of a monarch, right? It's one, right? But he's ruling without consent, right? He's just ruling because maybe he kills you if you don't consent. Right.
Well, the monarch or anyone in power has to be very careful about this nice balance, because you got to keep the masses halfway happy.
halfway happy?
Yeah, because or else they're going to be at your
Right, that's
throne's
the consent
door.
part. But the original, if you go back to Pharaoh and Persia and like Eastern kind of models, they're tyrannies. It's one ruler, but no consent. It's just by force, right? And of course, there's tyrannies that continue.
Well, you mean by consent of people?
Yeah,
But technically, with all the monarchies, it's hereditary, right? So the throne is passed through generations. So it's not like you have a random person who becomes a king or a queen. So there is no much consent anyway. So the people know that the next person in power on the throne is going to be someone of...
Well, sometimes there's wars about that, right? Between families that have claims, right? They think, well, I should be the monarch. No, we should be the monarch, right? So that's been the source of a lot of wars. But the point is, the ancient model is tyranny, right? It's not really, I don't think it should be called monarchy exactly, but it's a tyranny, meaning you've got an absolute authority or absolute power. Right?
I just had an interesting thought. What do you think the difference is between what we consider to be a classical monarchy, for instance, in the UK or the Netherlands, etc., and North Korea? Because surely they would fit the leaders, the supreme leaders of North Korea.
He's a tyrant. He's a tyrant. Stalin was a tyrant, and the czars were tyrants, and it's just as. Well,
the difference between the Soviet Union and North Korea is that, for instance, you have Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un, and they're all related to each other. So it's almost like a throne. They pass down. It's hereditary.
So they rule over their citizens because of fear. But like the Queen Elizabeth, she doesn't rule. She's just the head of state. She's just a decoration. She's a representation, representative of the country.
But then that would just not be the absolute monarchy.
No,
like you said,
right.
That would be the constitutional
right.
one.
Now it's constitutional. But originally that's...
Because technically, if you look at North Korea's official name, it's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Is the what now?
Well, that's
the what republic?
It's called the DPRK. That's what it's officially called.
Well, they
North
have
Korea?
to do that.
Yeah.
That's to get brownie points in the international
It's like branding. Yeah.
Well, technically, I'm not so sure that there is consent. Maybe there is.
No, there's absolutely no consent.
Well, maybe there is in a brainwashed way. I don't know.
Well, but it's not classical consent in any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about consent. So the difference with that later on, and I'm not talking about ancient times, but I'm talking about around the American Revolution before that, this war with the English against the monarchy was that we had to have this sharing of power, and that they had to be protected. Their lives had to be protected, and their property had to be protected. And this was the age of enlightenment, the age of rationalism. And when with our revolutionaries, our founders, they got onto this idea of that we have natural rights. And natural rights means that it was given by our Creator. Inalienable rights means that you cannot take these rights away from anyone. And so that's how we got into this separation, this resistance against monarchy or absolute power or some tyrant, that we have rights.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about these two different types of monarchy then. So in the absolute monarchy, the monarch is, he's omnipotent, so he can do whatever they want, whatever they find.
He's a divine power, so to speak. That's what he is brainwashing his
So that means that the monarch is responsible for absolutely everything happening in the country. What about constitutional monarchy then? So what is let's say, the scope of power of a monarch then?
Well, for instance, in the UK, the Prime Minister has this right called the royal prerogative, which means that he has the right to declare war, or she has the right to declare war, to do a lot of things that the monarch would normally be able to do. And I guess that's a constitutional monarchy whereby the monarch grants powers to Parliament or to any other governing body. I guess that's...
Yeah, the lawmakers are making laws to protect the people, and so that's the interest of the people.
But then, so if there is, let's say, a prime minister, there is parliament, what do the monarchs do? So do they have like a final word on things?
Yes, they do. In the UK, when any law is passed, it has to receive royal assent.
Mm-hmm.
So the Queen technically, puts the stamp on everything afterwards.
But at the same time, well, if we talk about Britain, for example, the Queen does not have the power to just say, okay, I've decided this is the end of story.
Yeah, she does technically have the power to do that. Technically.
But she's not going to exercise.
She's not going to. But she
Okay.
technically can do whatever she likes.
Is that right?
Yeah. If she wants to.
I mean, the
do
Constitution, Britain, you don't have a Constitution, right?
We don't.
You just
What
have.
do you have instead of?
It's
law,
it's
right?
really interesting. It's called common law, and there's no written constitution in the UK, which is fascinating and really confusing at the same time. But everything is the structure of UK law is essentially. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it's a set of acts, and everything is based on prior common law.
Right. But the precedent would be the changing precedent, right, would be that the Queen's power is quite limited. I mean, as far as her actual exercise of it, even if theoretically maybe there's no law forbidding it. Right?
Technically, she can
Right.
dissolve parliament and do whatever she likes, technically, but she's not going to do it because she would not want a revolution.
Right. So there's no court, or nobody can overrule her.
All the courts in the UK are Her Majesty's courts. So everything is HM. So for instance, Her Majesty's Prison Service, Her Majesty's HMRC, so Her Majesty's Revenues and Customs Agency, I think that's what it is. Everything is HM. So the courts are called Crown Courts. Well, the higher courts called Crown
What about
Courts.
the military as well, right?
Her Majesty's Armed Forces, the Royal Air Force, every armed force has the crown on top of it. And what's really interesting is when the Queen eventually passes away, there's a £8 billion contingency arrangement to change everything in the UK, from the banknotes to
There is an £8
billion contingency arrangement, meaning that
What is contingency arrangement?
so when something bad happens, or when something happens, there is
Oh, okay.
these reserve resources in place to.
I heard that when the Queen dies, I like some people who say if the Queen dies.
Yeah.
So they say
Yeah.
that the UK is going to lose so much money because then you will have to change absolutely everything because the next person in line is a man. So it's long live the Queen, or
Yeah.
Her
everything,
Majesty
yeah.
something, but they will have to.
But they've already got that in view, right?
Yeah, so they already. Well, I believe.
Well,
the
they
UK
have to.
Government has
Right, I mean,
set
but-
aside £8 billion. So, and the BBC rehearses for this, I believe, every month. So every month there's a rehearsal for when the Queen dies.
Right, and these
Well, I mean,
days,
she's 90,
every week
95 or 96?
I think
To stay
94,
sharp.
something like
94.
that, maybe.
So, they got to be ready, 94.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, sure.
And so
I mean, long live the Queen, of course, but
well, I believe there will be something like 10 days mourning where everyone on TV wears black, and yeah, it's.
I
gonna
heard
be,
that even the banks wouldn't be open for like 4 or 5 days, losing just millions and millions of pounds.
To be honest, that could very well be the case. I'm not too sure, but it could very well be the case. But it's fascinating because ultimately the Queen is supreme. It's her country.
It's actually interesting what the queens and the kings can actually do in different countries, because I don't think, in case of a constitutional monarchy, they are allowed to do whatever they find fit. I still think that they are very limited by.
If nothing else, custom would determine the boundaries, right? That's part of what common law does. I mean, practice before determines practice now. That's basically the idea. So, I mean, the Queen, there's probably, theoretically, maybe there are no limits, but in practice, there's tons of limits, right? Because, if anybody is limited by practice, it would be the Queen, right?
Yeah.
Because for her to go rogue, right,
Yeah.
so to speak.
And those limits
would
are
be very
essentially
bad, would be
discussed in Machiavelli's book, The Prince, Il Principe. And he discusses what contributes to the long reign of a leader, of a dictator, or of a monarch. And he dictates, he discusses how fear is better. It's better to be feared than to be loved, but you can't be too feared because then nobody will be on your side. So, yeah, definitely read The Prince by Machiavelli. Very short book.
Right.
But interesting.
There is some logic to it if you think about it.
Yeah. Well, that came out of Italian politics of the 15th century.
Yeah, something like that.
And which were pretty hairy, shall we say. So
Yeah.
it was bare knuckles, we would say, bare knuckle type politics, yeah. And there were a lot of dead bodies, and I mean, it was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you know anything about the history of monarchy? I mean, how long has this form of government existed?
Well, if we're going to talk, I'm going to throw this. I'm going to throw this in, but while I can maybe. But the monarchy, as I understand it, which I did review this, and I don't call it even a review because I don't know anything. But anyway, it arose out of a feudal kind of situation, right? Feudalism being society being all divided up into a lot of different units of authority, right? And what basically the king or the monarch becomes is the first among equals. So that through charisma, apparently there was a king, and you would know about this, but there's a king named Henry II who was in the 12th century who just by personal charisma was able to, in England, to kind of unite things and begin to expand the personal power. But he was building on a Germanic kind of background because the basic population of England was Germanic. And so the culture was, there was a culture of consent to the rule of the king. So like Germanic warriors would decide who was their chief. And of course, it would be because of personal charisma and those kinds of things and success in war and like that. But that tradition kind of continued into England, and Edward, who was powerful enough to just do whatever he wanted, kind of, but he was wise enough to kind of go along with the flow of the culture and to seek for consent, particularly to taxes, right? Which then became, monarchy in England, right? That's kind of by country how monarchy developed, if I understand it right. So that in England, anyway, the monarchy arose from this process of consulting, the king kind of consulting with the rich lords, right, to get their consent, particularly to taxation. Okay, and so there was always this limited monarchy kind of that was in the sort of the DNA of the country, which was not in France's DNA, for example, different story. So in England anyway, the monarchy as such has this consultative part where the king is going to consult with other significant figures and get their consent because they're going to be paying for his wars, right? That's all. A lot of it's about how do you pay for wars. And out of this, there arose this acknowledgement of the king as above the others with the consent of the rest of the nobles. Okay, in France, it was a similar, different, but sort of similar idea of how power got centralized into one king over fragmented powers.
It's interesting how monarchy appeared in the first place, how it all started back in the history. Because if we think about it, it's prehistoric, right? I mean, in ancient Egypt, we had the, how do you call it, pharaoh?
Yeah, the pharaoh.
Pharaohs.
Yeah.
So, and the power was, it was
just
hereditary,
from him,
right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Was it from like the father to son or to daughter, or was it?
Yeah, it was hereditary, I believe. Yeah.
So
I guess we all come from monkeys ultimately, and if you look at gorillas, you have the silverback.
the leader of the pack.
Yeah, and then whoever's the biggest basically is the king. So I guess it comes from
from that time, and then we had the tribes, and then there was a leader of the tribe. Well, that makes sense.
You asked a good question, Gary. You said, how
Did I ask a question?
Yes, you did.
Yes. I thought I was giving answers. Yes, I'm trying to give answers, but no, I was asking
if I could
questions.
remember the question now.
All right. Okay.
You
See,
asked, how does a king stay have money, right? So you said through taxes, which is true, but also expansion. So that was the whole deal about expanding to the new world. Yeah, expanding your territory, resources, whatever it takes to stay in power is the amount of wealth that you accumulate, because that was the economic system at the time. I'm talking about 1600s, the mercantile system. So all of these riches will go right back to the king. Of course, the explorers certainly made their profit. It was all about money because they knew that resources, riches kept you in power.
Yeah, Britain succeeded in that, I guess, with all the different countries. Wait, so what countries have monarchies right now?
Well, the Netherlands, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Belgium, Norway,
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Liechtenstein.
See, now Saudi Arabia, the royal family has to share power with Sharia law.
But they still have absolute power.
I think so, but they have to listen to the Muslim.
Yeah, was it? Yeah,
I think it even has a certain term like Muslim monarchy, because the same situation is in Qatar and in Oman.
And the UAE too. You have the princes.
Yes, but they don't have the absolute monarchy. They have more of constitutional or mixed type of monarchy. So it's not the same as in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So and then we have in Europe, you've mentioned many countries.
Japan has an emperor.
That's true. They do. Thailand.
Yeah, Thailand definitely. Yeah.
So these are constitutional monarchies, as far as I remember. And then what about places like Australia, Canada?
It's all our queen.
So
that's true.
Does that mean?
Yes, she's over there in Canada.
So wait, what are the territories again? So it's Canada, Australia,
New Zealand. Well, obviously you have
Is it Jamaica? Wait, is Jamaica one of the?
Okay, so actually, interestingly,
Barbados?
Jamaica was the Queen used to be the Queen of Jamaica, but recently Jamaica said no.
No.
Unfortunately,
I love it. You know what? We thought about it and we decided that no, we'll pass.
Yeah.
So many places. There are a lot of islands as well, right? So wait,
many islands. Yeah.
does that mean that they are monarchies then?
Well, they're part of a commonwealth, which is
I think it means that they have their own government, but they still recognize the Queen. In some sense.
The Queen is still the head of state.
So it's not a monarchy, but a commonwealth?
Yeah, the Commonwealth. Well, that's what it's called. And we have, for instance, the Commonwealth Games, which are the mini Olympics within the British, the Queen's territories.
Which there are plenty of.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I believe Jamaica still is in the Commonwealth Games.
You should say something like, "You're welcome, Jamaica."
Yeah.
As long as we let you to be in.
Picking and choosing what they want.
Yeah.
So wait, let's talk about this Commonwealth. So does the Queen have any kind of power over them?
Yeah. She's the Queen of Canada. She's the Queen of Australia. She can do what she likes.
Does she actually take part in life of any of those countries?
Yeah. You see. Well, also you see the royal family going to Canada and Australia all the time.
Quite
honestly, never saw that. But
practice,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, in practice, is she actually doing anything besides being this historical kind of?
Well, aren't they supposed to do good in the world too? They're supposed to go and feed the hungry and do good things, humanitarian work.
I mean,
we always saw Princess Di do that. I mean, she was big on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say the royal family is pretty humanitarian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Humanitarian oriented.
Because, for example, when it comes to Canada, I've never heard or seen in the news that the Queen, has done something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Canada has a parliament just like the UK has a parliament, and
so she's like, if you ever need anything.
And in their anthem, "Oh Canada," do they mention the Queen?
Oh, to be honest, I can't remember.
Oh, we should sing it right now, but I don't know the words.
Yeah, let's everybody.
1, 2, 3, go.
But I believe the Queen's head is on the Canadian dollar coins.
She's on. Yeah.
Canadian money is so cool. If you look at their banknotes, they have hockey players and
they're plastic, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah.
Banknotes.
Same with the UK now. Unfortunately, we don't have paper notes. They're now these annoying plasticky kind of notes.
Since when?
Since what was it, 2015 or 24, something like that. They started phasing out paper notes.
Right. Well, that's to show us that money isn't real anyway, right? It just represents.
So all the banknotes that I had in 2015,
I'm sure you could still use them.
can I?
Well, on our website, the Big Apple School website, we have an interesting article that someone wrote.
Oh.
I think
Someone. Who might that be?
about currency and money. So definitely check out that.
We definitely will. But yeah, aw. Yeah, well, on the other hand, there's a good side to having plastic money. You know, if you get into the rain, nothing's going to happen.
Against it. I'm against plastic money.
It doesn't feel right. I love Russian money. It feels like real money.
I know. Well, Russian money doesn't seem real to me at all. I just like, what is this? Got 1,000 on it, 2,000, 5,000. Who cares what it is?
The euro seems like
American
fake
money. That's strong. That's what I like.
Yeah, dollars are real.
Yeah.
I love dollars.
Is there a banknote of like a $2 banknote?
Well, there was at one point. It was, I think it was, what was that, Anthony?
Susan B.
Anthony. It was a $2 coin. And maybe paper as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
I've seen the $2 paper note
it didn't
before, but
last
it's
long.
phased out. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want changes. We want the same. That's what I think. Right, Gary? We want the same?
Do you know?
No changes to the bills.
Not related to the topic of monarchy at all, but do you remember the quarters that had the states on them?
Yeah.
So I only have 3 left, I think. So yeah, and it's...
Oh, well, speaking about that, you weren't alive then, but it used to be that quarters were completely all silver. And then, like in the 60s, it was devalued some way and they put copper in there. So you'd see the new ones in the 1960s with this copper ridge. Remember way back then?
I believe I do.
Yes.
I think my mother told me about those.
Yes, probably so. Of course, I didn't see them.
Yes, right.
But essentially, in all of the
talk
Queen's
about
territories, her head's on the coin. On the coins, yeah.
I also remember when I was in Britain, we tried to, apparently if you have certain coins, you can make a picture of the Queen surrounded with, how do you call, not a flag, but it has a shape like this.
Oh, like a banner or something.
A banner.
A wreath or a banner, something like that.
So, and if you got certain coins, if you sometimes, look on the tails, you would see that sometimes there is a weird part. I'm like, what is that? Why is there no face? And like, oh, let us show. So we collected all the coins we had in the group when I was in at a language school over there. So when we managed to make this picture, but you need different coins, like a pound coin and like 50 pence and something like that. So yeah, it looks cool. Yeah. Alrighty. So well, there are quite a lot of countries then that still have monarchy. So apparently, I found some information that as of 2021, so, in 2022, when you'll be listening to this podcast, it might be different, So there are 44 sovereign states in the world with a monarch as head of state. There are 13 in Asia, 12 in Europe, 10 in North America, 6 in Oceania, and 3 in Africa. So 44.
10 in North America?
Mm-hmm.
How many sovereign states are in North America? North America meaning...
Well, Central America too, yeah.
And there's...
So North America technically is Guatemala, Honduras.
Yeah. The king of Belize. Yeah, right, yes. I'm the king in a Spanish accent. I'd have to change my accent. Yeah, I can't do it, so forget it. The king of Belize, yeah. How did they get 10 in North America? Sorry.
I don't know, maybe some of our states have kings in them. I didn't know about.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, what countries are there in North America?
Hawaii. They certainly had a queen at one time, but I don't know about now.
Well, North America, obviously Canada, US, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras,
But they don't have
Panama,
kings. None of the,
Costa Rica.
Canada has a queen.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's one. Okay, right. One is pretty far from 10, though. Last time I counted.
You just add a 0, but then it becomes 10.
Maybe some kind of islands, though. Some kind of islands in North America, like where? The islands.
Okay, maybe.
Obviously not Cuba.
Not Cuba.
Kings. Well, actually, yeah. If you count all those, if you count the British, former British, right, like Jamaica and what would it? British would be. Oh my goodness.
I know we need a map or
Jamaica.
something.
Well, Jamaica was part of the Commonwealth, but
Jamaica and what else?
well, Jamaica's a republic. I think it's a republic now.
Bahamas? The Bahamas? Is it over there?
Yeah.
I'm so bad at geography. I'm so
So
sorry.
yeah, the Bahamas. Yeah, that's the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Well,
Belize? Is
just
Belize over there?
Yeah.
a little note. So in British English, we say the Caribbean. Don't you say Caribbean? And
Some people say Caribbean, some people say
I think
Caribbean.
we say
also, you say Caribbean.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
What do you say?
Caribbean, yeah.
No, I say both. Sometimes I say Caribbean and sometimes I say Caribbean.
Oh, cool.
I go back and forth.
bilingual.
Yeah, depending on how sophisticated I want to sound.
So it's not like the word aluminium, where we say
don't know.
aluminium and you say
What do you mean, aluminum?
aluminum.
Yeah, we say we only
Yeah, there's
say
no such a
aluminum.
thing as, how did you say it?
Aluminium?
Aluminium.
Aluminium.
Yeah, I've never heard of such a
Aluminium.
word.
And we say route and you say route.
Well, sometimes we say root. Sometimes
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
say
we
root.
say
and
route.
sometimes
We
I
say
route.
routes. Yeah.
Okay,
Bilingual.
Route.
Right.
Yeah.
Bilingual, true.
Once again,
Yeah.
there's 8 or 10 words where we're bilingual. That's where the typical American is bilingual, right? 8 or 10 words.
Right.
Yeah. Pizza, that's Italian, right?
You're basically polyglots, right?
Tacos
we have a
is
lot
from
of-
Spanish, I
What
believe.
about a lot of French words? We have lingerie. We have that word. We got resume. That's French.
Well, English was obviously influenced by French heavily, coming back to monarchies.
Yes,
I
of
mean,
course, those
yeah, we had
dominating
a lot
powers.
of French.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how Great Britain got into debt with all those wars against France and Spain and then of course America.
You name it. I think if you just put
Yeah.
just pick any country, you'll be right. So okay, we more or less, I think, define the power of the king or queen. So.
In our own way, we did.
Yes,
And-
we
yeah.
in our own
What
unique
about
way.
what about the role of the royal family? So what about the rest of the family?
I couldn't care less about them.
Do they have?
Right. There's the American speaking. There's an American voice.
I'm in the wrong podcast here. I can't stand the members of the royal family. I don't care.
Whoa.
Oof,
Okay, we're
I
gonna.
think it's
Yeah, right.
really hot over
I'm glad
here.
there's 2 of us. We can restrain these 2 here. I think this is going to come to blows sooner or later.
So, but what about the rest of the royal family? Do they have any kind of power? Do they have any kind of role? Are they just decoration?
Well, I guess if they do something bad, they can just say, "Come on, mummy or grandma."
Oh, like Andrew?
Yeah,
like Prince
he-
Andrew?
He's
Oh,
in
wait,
a bit
what?
of a
Mama.
Prince Andrew's in a bit of a sticky situation
Yeah,
right
sticky
now.
little hot spot there.
Not-
Oh, I need more details.
With
Spill the
Jeffrey-
beans. Tell me.
Jeffrey
Tell me.
It's not very
Epstein.
nice.
Yeah, it's not nice.
It's not nice at all. Basically, he's
Yeah,
involved in.
it's all adult stuff that we.
It's not very pleasant at all. Go on Netflix. There's an interesting documentary about Jeffrey Epstein. You know
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein.
This has
yeah?
come up
You've mentioned
before.
him.
This has come up. Do you recall this?
Yes, it has.
Yes,
yeah.
it has. It
It
it's
won't go
come
away.
in our podcast.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the episode about conspiracy theories?
Yeah. So Prince Andrew is key. in this,
I remember you explained it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now I remember. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Now he's being sued.
Oh, really?
Yes. Not that it's going to flourish into anything, but
Yeah.
just the act of being sued.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the Queen would not want to have something happen in public with Prince Andrew, because that would completely destroy the reputation of the royal family.
Well, if she
And-
dies, maybe it could happen after that.
Yeah.
I love the if.
That's
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So wait, getting back to the question. So do they have any power? What role do they play?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure that they are kind of above the law. I guess they kind of are.
yes, I would think so. I mean, normally rich people are. But the humanitarian role is really important. And so I've seen, you'll see pictures and video of all these princes and princesses going places, duchesses.
So that's what I understand, that they have more of a social public function, to show how royal families can do good, how they help the poor, help the hungry, or whatever.
Yeah, after centuries of domination of the people, then they come back and say, see how nice we are.
Yeah. It's more for tourism. They bring a lot of tourism income, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. I know that in some countries, mostly with absolute monarchy, like Jordan, for example, or Saudi Arabia, the members of the royal family can actually hold, high positions in the military, in politics.
So those princes.
Yeah,
did
Prince
that.
Charles. Well, Prince Charles prances around in his military colours all the
Yes.
time.
And the boys
And
do too.
they were. And Prince William, he was a helicopter pilot with the Royal Air Force, and Prince Harry was in the army.
Yeah, he went to Afghanistan.
He did, and that's actually quite a controversial issue because he technically could have put a lot of soldiers' lives at risk because obviously he would have been a prime target for the Taliban. And luckily, I mean, I can't say, but yeah.
Yes, I remember there was some kind of controversy.
Yeah, personally, I don't think he should have been on the front line.
He wasn't there for very long anyway. Whenever he did go in,
Yeah.
he wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm not
He was pulled out.
fully versed on all the ins and outs of what happened, but yeah.
Do you think it was their personal choice, to go into military, or were they required to do something like that in order to,
Well, it's prestigious.
Yeah, if you go to war and you have a medal,
It means you're a hero.
Yeah, you're a hero, yeah.
somebody.
yeah.
status? So, but none of them actually has any kind of power, like political power. It's only the queen, right?
Well, I guess maybe they do have power via the Queen.
Well, don't they have some kind of little territory that they're in charge of? Because
yeah.
they have different titles. Not only is Prince Charles a Prince Charles, but he's
Yeah.
also a something of a
Of
something.
Wales, yeah.
Yeah.
Prince of
Something
Wales,
of a
yeah.
something.
I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that would be not symbolic, but
Yeah.
ceremonial.
definitely.
Yeah. But nobody cares about Wales, so.
Aw.
I'm joking.
I
Wales is
love
a
that
great
accent.
place.
Our many Welsh listeners are offended. We lost some Welsh.
I'm
Yeah,
joking.
our Welsh listeners are
Yeah,
gone.
they're dropping off even as we
banter.
speak.
No, I mean Wales is a beautiful place. It is, but it's funny to joke about.
Yeah.
Wales.
Well, just like comedians, we can make fun of everybody, right?
Yeah.
We tend to do that anyway. I know I've made fun of certain people's.
Yeah.
Isn't the bridge between England and Wales
Cardiff.
not free now? Because I remember there was a bridge that you could cross for free, and then they built another one that was that you had to pay for.
A toll
And people
bridge.
were mad. They're like, "Who would want to pay to go to Wales?"
Maybe they'd pay to get out of Wales.
All right.
Not
Now we-
only do they have to pay to get in there.
All right. I want to just speak to our Welsh listeners here.
You want
I
to-
think it's a wonderful country. I've never been there, haven't seen
My
any
dream
pictures.
is to go
Don't know
there.
anything about it, but
I want to go to Cardiff, just because that's where one of the TV shows was filmed.
I want to go to the town with the longest name in the UK. I can't even say it.
Oh
but
my
it's-
God, there was a moment about this place in Graham Norton's show, I think.
Yeah,
And-
Landford, Poo, go, go, go,
And
something
Michael,
like that.
it was an interview with Michael Sheen and David Tennant, and Michael Sheen's like, "Well, there is this name, and I bet you don't even know this place with the longest name." And David Tennant just, "You mean la 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 la?" How did you do that?
Well, basically,
love
it's
this
property of the Prince of Wales. It's Prince Charles's place.
I get so confused in all these names of British royal family. To be
Oh
honest,
yeah. There's no need to even go there.
Okay, so wait. Why don't we talk a little bit more about them? Actually, so what is people's attitude to them in Britain?
People are quite indifferent, generally speaking. I mean, you do have quite a few people who are strong Republicans, not as in US Republicans, as in Republicans in the sense that they want to get rid of the monarch.
And what do they want to have instead?
Well, I mean, it's not a unified movement. So you just have various people who would rather not have a monarchy.
All right, so in general, people don't care.
Well,
Well, I
I've
mean, yeah.
seen interviews and they'd be like 50-50. There'd be someone, oh,
Yeah.
I love the Queen.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's so good for tourism. And
Yeah.
the others that, like you say, like, yeah, down with the king.
I mean,
Queen.
to be honest, no. To be honest, I like having the monarchy there. It's quite fun. I mean, because they don't really do anything other than
Yeah.
just prance around and cause funny chaos in the news. So I mean, and to be honest, it is really cool having the history there. It really
yeah,
is.
So
cool.
don't people-
they're good for representing
Yeah. So-
history.
So does that mean that people don't
Continuity.
mind paying, higher taxes in order to provide for the
It's
royal family?
actually
Because that's
they actually bring in more than they
Okay.
cost, so it's actually not an issue.
How
that
come that
sense.
they bring more?
Well, not just well, it's kind of hard to calculate that figure. I'm sure maybe they have twisted some figures somehow, but apparently they bring in a lot more via tourism. And so, for instance, this is not direct income. So, for instance, if you give a company the royal warrant, so if you put the crown's seal of approval on a product, that immediately makes that product much more desirable. So people from China, Saudi Arabia will definitely want to, or any country would want to buy such products because it has that prestigious trademark on it, and they bring in a lot of money to the country that way. But they don't actually cost as much as the Dutch royal family, and they apparently spend more money, taxpayers' money, than the British royal family.
Oh, wow.
So
Do they have a bigger royal family? Because
It's
British royal
almost the
family is a
same.
lot of people. Like I remember we, whenever I have a lesson about, family, so when we start to learn all these words like mother-in-law, father-in-law, like all these in-laws. So I usually print, the family tree of the royal family. And I remember when I did that first, when I just started teaching, I was shocked. I'm like, wait a sec. I thought there were like 8 or 10 of them. And then the tree goes on and on and on and on. Yeah, but I remember I was in London when Kate Middleton gave birth to her daughter. What's her name? Charlotte?
Yeah.
I think. So, and I remember people cheering, and they just brought flowers to the palace or whatever. And everywhere on the radio, people talking. Everyone's like, the princess was born. Charlotte. They named her Charlotte, and there's Charlotte Elizabeth, Charlotte Diane. Elizabeth, something like that. She has a very long name. And I was like, oh, wow, they're so excited.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
That reminds me of when Princess Di married Prince Charles, and the wedding was all over American news, TV shows. We had to watch it like 24/7 for several days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was huge. It's huge worldwide. And don't you think that partly it's because we little girls want to grow up to be princesses?
No, thanks. I don't know. I never wanted to be one.
oh, come on, yes you do.
I wanted to become
Yeah,
Dr.
you wanna
Dolittle
you wanna
and
be a
talk to
prince.
animals.
Yes. I'm sure once you put a little princess dress on, you would not want to take it off.
Wait till my wedding dress, then I'll tell you. So, and do people follow, the news, the gossip about the royal family?
I guess everyone does to an extent. I mean, I don't think people care as much as they make it out to be.
So, what is people's attitude to Meghan right now?
It's kind of 50-50. I mean, maybe more people dislike her than
Do you know
she is.
anything about the current situation?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Have you watched the interview with
Oprah, I mean, I think it's all for show, to be honest. I don't think people...
What was the interview like? Can you...
I didn't watch all of it. I watched clips of it. I mean, I don't think people... I mean, I'm sure there are some racist people out there, of course, but I don't think there's like a mass epidemic of racial hatred towards Meghan because of her skin color. But I'm sure there are some people out there who do dislike her for her skin color, but she's claiming that there's like an epidemic of it, and I don't believe that.
I know, well, not I know, but I read, that the Queen really dislikes her because she used to be an actress. So, she doesn't have any kind of formal education like Kate does, for example. And that's why, she's not really like, I don't know all the details of this scandal when didn't they like quit the royal family or something like that?
Yeah, technically.
And then they moved to Canada.
yeah, and
Right.
Los Angeles. And
Oh, yeah.
Now they're in
Yeah.
LA.
And then they
Yeah,
got some kind of
yeah,
show or something.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
Really?
Yes, they had a book deal, or I don't know.
yeah,
They
they're
had lots of
cashing
things.
in. They're
I mean, life for Harry must be really difficult. I understand why he would not necessarily want to be in the limelight. It must be a really weird life being a prince and having your life under surveillance
yeah, it would be
24/7.
terrible. Yeah.
Even though it's luxurious and you can have whatever you like, I would not want to be in that position. And on one hand, I feel really bad for him. On the other hand, I feel, do you know what? This is the life you've been given. You have to play with the cards that were dealt. And
I'm pretty sure now they're going to, write a book or something about it, and it will certainly become a bestseller. And they're like, oh, we'll tell you all the secrets about the royal family life.
yeah.
I'm not sure they're legally allowed to, though, but that's another story.
Well, there's that drama, which I haven't watched, but it's called The Crown. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, isn't that with Olivia Colman?
Yeah.
They say that it's historical fiction or something like that. They say like, we are not responsible for whatever we show. Like, it's not true to history.
Yeah.
Just like there is a TV show, The Great, about Catherine the Great. But, they just say, don't believe what we show here. It was different. Because a lot of people started, calling them out for showing everything wrong. And they're like, it can't have been like that. And they're like, we never said we show the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult. I mean, if you're going to take historical figures, maybe you should try extra hard to be historically accurate.
Actually, there is a debate of how historically accurate must you be. And you've got liberty. You don't really have to be historically accurate, which I think they should be. Why watch it? And why call it historical fiction?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you don't have to be historically accurate when you make something.
Yeah, I guess there's room for, you can fill in blanks and provide things that aren't included, but you wouldn't want to go against fact. Right?
Well, what about that movie? It was about, I guess, the Russian Tsar or something, and they showed a shot of the Red Square, and it was before Lenin ever died, and the Lenin's tomb was shown in the movie.
Mausoleum?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there were like a lot of
Yeah, that's sloppy.
points, very sloppy.
Movie making.
Yeah, but who cares?
So, and wait, the US used to be a British colony as well, right?
Oh,
so it used to
yes.
be a monarchy, technically. So can you tell
No,
us?
well, we were subjects. We were subjects of the monarchy. Yeah. And we American colonists knew that.
Yeah. Me, Barbara, and a couple of other people that are a little older.
Well, I
Yes,
I still relate to the American colonists. The Englishmen looked down on the American colonists. They said, oh, they are second-class citizens. They're second-class subjects. And so that was one thing we American colonists wanted, was just equality. We did not want to revolt and completely tear ourselves from the crown. We just wanted equality and stop overtaxing us just because your coffers were bare.
Can you give us a little bit of a history lesson? How did it all start? How did that territory become a British colony? It was a colony, right?
Yeah, it's because the British was a world power and they had trading companies. They encouraged people to go out and get resources with these ships. And so they encouraged these ships to go out.
And the Dutch too as well.
Yeah, the Dutch was really very,
Right. Everybody
the
was
Dutch
doing
Indian
Well,
companies.
New York, New Amsterdam. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those were all those names.
Yeah.
And so they encouraged them, and it would be protected by the king. So if anything happened, and bring back this wealth for us so that we can maintain our power. So that's how it started.
Was that with the pilgrims or something?
Well, pilgrims had another motive, right? They were for religious motives, right? For their faith, they left.
But also from
England.
Right, they were
from
from
England. They
England as
actually
well.
left from Holland because they'd already fled from England, which was not so free at the time.
So we were in the age of discovery. So these ships can go back and forth for economic reasons and for
Yeah, in
religious
this case, it
reasons.
was specifically to practice their faith. And so they came, this is the Massachusetts, the Pilgrims. And they went there.
That's
and-
why they call these this part of the U.S. New England, I guess.
Correct, yeah.
And there were people who wanted to, remember we had that podcast about the plague. There were the English who were trying to get out of, plague-ridden England and go to a new world, something, fresh and expand. And so it was certainly a dangerous journey. And then to be there, so many of them died. But it all started with this and being subjects of these powers.
Right.
How
and
did
they
that
were
stop?
They were like Englishmen. I think they considered themselves Englishmen who were located, just living outside of the country, right? They were
Definitely. The English who were going over there certainly felt like Englishmen.
right. They
But
were.
then, yeah.
I mean, they were Englishmen,
Right.
They were Englishmen,
And then
literally.
once-
And it was a question of whether they have part of the issue that arose between England and the colonies were, did they have all of the rights of Englishmen, which would include taxation, the problem of taxation, and could they consent to the taxes that were they represented in Parliament as Englishmen? That was one of the issues, among others. Yeah.
The other issue of how the revolution started was also Britain restricted trade. The American colonists were no longer allowed to trade with, say, France. And France was right in Canada. They were neighbors. Under the Stamp Act or the stamp tax was that all paper products, meaning contracts or paper you need to use for contracts or newspapers, had to have the seal of the royal crown, and which means that you had paid your taxes. But just like this slogan they had, what is it?
No taxation without representation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They want to be represented.
Yeah, they weren't represented, so that Parliament, they didn't have any voice in Parliament, but they were having all of these taxes put on them. That was part of...
Yeah, and partly to enforce these taxes were the British troops in presence in the communities. And of course, the American colonists really resented this presence of the troops. There was this horrible thing called the Boston Massacre, where the British troops opened fire on these unarmed protesters. And this was depicted by Paul Revere. He had actually etched this thing that he disseminated, and that got people riled up. Yeah, we don't want British troops on our land, and let's break. And so it was this big campaign of let's get everybody on board so we can break from the crown. Benjamin Franklin had this drawing of this serpent, and he put on this join or die, meaning join the revolution or die by British hands. And that's considered to be the first political cartoon. Did you know that? Join or die.
I didn't know
You
that.
have such great knowledge of history.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Then, so once they got the decision to revolt, then they had to get the ideology for a reason. Why are we revolting? Why are we going to separate ourselves? And that plays into all of our natural rights. And we have inalienable rights. And we're not going to stand for this anymore. And we're grown up. We don't need to be subjects.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
It was all of these, they're all standing up and saying, we're grown-ups. Right, yes. That's all it was.
Yeah.
It was the teenagers were now saying, we're grown-ups now.
We're all
The
big
grown-ups
boys.
were saying, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was quite violent. Do you know what an effigy is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so an effigy with like clothes, and you stuff the clothes with straw, and it's supposed to represent like the tax collector or the governor or whoever in the political scheme of
Basically
things.
a piñata, yeah.
It was like a piñata. Yeah, they would hang them or set a fire to them, and this was to show how much we hate the tax man. Set a fire to an effigy.
As long as it's not the real taxman,
Yeah, but there was a lot of violence for the revolt. And then we won.
Yeah. And then who won?
Yeah,
who won,
we
Barbara?
won.
Huh?
Woo! Yeah, British, get out.
High five. Yes.
It's always fun being in America on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and tell me, do you know much about Russian royal family?
A little bit about
The Romanovs and
Nicholas II, the last one.
Benjamin, what do you remember about them?
well, I mean, let's just introduce the whole subject in general. So you have Ivan the Terrible, you have the Peters. What else?
Well, we had the principalities when you're talking
Catherine
about
the Great,
Catherine the Great, of course. Yeah.
Nicholas,
Alexander.
yeah.
Right into the 19th century.
Elizabeth?
Yeah. couple of Alexanders in there, and you got
Three of them, I think.
Yeah, Alexander III was Nicholas II's father, and he was the second to the last Tsar, and then Nicholas II was the last Tsar. And Nicholas II was the one who had this big bridge built, right, to connect Siberia to Moscow. Novosibirsk.
Might have been.
to connect what?
Siberia is the wealth of Siberia
The wealth
to
of Siberia.
Moscow. Build the
Okay, well, he built the Trans-Siberian
right.
railway.
Yeah, and this bridge, like, let's build a bridge here.
I wonder if that's why there is a monument to Nicholas II and his son Alexei in front of Alexander Nevsky Cathedral in
Yeah.
Novosibirsk.
That's why.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, it's right. And there's the railroad bridge there and the whole, yeah, sure it is.
Wasn't Novosibirsk called Novonikolaevsk?
It
Yes.
was.
Yes,
It
it
was.
is.
And it's always been growing. It was such a success from the very beginning because they first had all these workers there working on the bridge. And wherever you have workers, you have to have food and you have to have stores and places to live. And so it just grew out of this little tiny worker camp. And it's been
So-
growing ever since.
If we think about, the time of Russian royal family, the Romanovs ruling, it was from 1613 and everything has been, well, not all the time, but, Russia has grown so much. It has developed new things, we remember all of them like Peter the Great, Catherine the Great. So why did it stop then? So what happened?
But they got to the East Coast and there was no more land there.
Okay, and then Nicholas II just said, okay, nowhere to go anymore. I'm done over here.
Yeah, that's right. My work is done. Yes.
Benjamin, do you remember anything about that?
Well, no, you had the Red Revolution.
Yeah, a little bit of
Why?
there was a little disagreement,
A little bit. Why?
a lively disagreement.
Because the thing is that
Poor people.
Nicholas II, when he got into power, he was absolutely inexperienced, and people saw him as politically weak. And then, so when he came into power in 1917, he abdicated. So it was 1894. And then we had Russian-Japanese War, which was 1904, 1905,
Yeah.
which was really poorly
bad, yeah.
handled. Really poorly handled. Then we had in 1905 the Rising of the Workers, which was the Bloody Sunday. So, and then Russia got into the First World War, and that
Yeah,
was
that was very unpopular. Many people did not want to join World War
so,
I.
and it was just, it showed him from a very bad perspective. So people realized that he's weak and he cannot, make Russian empire rise and, above Europe or something like that. So they just, they made him abdicate.
Yeah, well, and you had a whole revolutionary underworld or whatever, subculture developing, right, that was making it their business. It was their doctrine that the old order should be overthrown and
The whole
replaced.
idea was to get the people so that first they were saying the workers, the proletariat, they get the workers on board. And they say, oh, we should include the people who are in the fields, the field toilers. And so this big mass movement, it was pretty incredible.
So, and then he abdicated in March of 1917, and in November, the Bolsheviks already seized the power and just.
Well, there was an interim government, a provisional government. So once the abdication happened, there was this provisional government that was going too democratic for Lenin's taste. And he said, this is not what we fought for. And so they took over the provisional. And that was the storming of the Winter Palace.
What I was surprised about is that Nicholas II was cousin of Prince William. And a lot of people in the Russian royal family were related to different royal families, like
Right.
Swedish royal family, other royal families. So, and when I tried to understand the connection between all of them, I was like, so many people are related.
Yeah, and Nicholas II married something of Germany, right? It was a German,
yeah.
to consolidate their power and their wealth.
I think her name was Alex, and then when she became the
Oh, she changed her name.
Alexandra Feodorovna.
Yeah,
They all did.
Yeah. They're like blessed by the church and then changed their name.
Yeah. I remember one of the interviews with Prince Philip, the one who died not long ago. They're like, why don't you want to go to Russia? And he's like, well, you know, my family has a history of being killed over there. So, yeah. Well, Russian royal family also has an interesting history, just like Russia in general does, I would say. All right. So, and what do we finish with trying to think about pros and cons of monarchy? Are there any pros to having a monarchy?
I think there are. I mean, if you have the history there, if you've got it, flaunt it. And just not to be too American with it, but I mean, if you have a wonderful history like that, you ought to preserve it in some form. And it seems like, you know, British have preserved it in a way that isn't destructive and is constructive, because, you know, now in our world, it's hard to find things that unify countries, right? It's a problem of modernity. Barbara, don't you think? A problem of modernity?
I do agree, yes.
And really it is that there's not enough things that unite people. And Britain has the historical tradition that it can just enjoy or sort of celebrate, even if it's just, you know, somewhat largely historical, but still, that's not nothing, it's something. And it's a pretty incredible
I'm on board
history.
with Gary. I agree. I think there's that historical
The modernity thing.
that
thing about modernity.
That doesn't even
Right.
match.
Whatever that was he was saying. I agree with that. I don't know what it was, but I agree with it.
Are there any
Tradition, not modernity.
Okay. Oh, tradition. All right. Not modernity.
Are there any other advantages to having a monarchy?
No, none at all.
Well, I guess just the tourism, as we already touched
tourism.
on that. So
Well,
it kind of is tied into what Gary was just talking about. But
Yeah, I mean, and
Well,
that-
it brings
practically-
money
Yeah.
to the country.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Through
just
that.
the whole world, when something large scale happens
yeah,
in England, right, at some great event, I mean, just the tradition, maybe the whole world needs it kind of, because there's just, you know, the whole world, I mean, America, we don't have any, sorry, Barbara, but
Yeah, we need
don't
some
have-
kind of fantasy, like a
Yeah, we were more fantasy people.
we need a fantasy.
No, we need a fantasy.
We're realistic
yeah.
people.
So
We
we'll
need-
borrow it. We'll borrow it and we'll make the crown and
Then
we'll
we'll-
cash in and we'll make everything else. But
Would you say that with a monarchy, there's a smooth transition of power? Because I'm pretty sure
Sure,
now
and
the
that
next
helps
person
too.
in line, who's the next person in line, by the way?
with Charles.
So I'm pretty sure he knows, you know, what to do and how to do this when the queen dies. He's been
put it
prepared
mildly,
for
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And, you know,
he's had 75 years to practice, yes, to prepare. Yeah,
so, and
he's ready. Yeah, right.
I'm pretty sure he's been, he's been preparing for it, you know, during his life. So it's not like,
And
you know,
there's a
oh
lot
no,
to be
chaos.
said for that. You know, like like in a war, you need everything. Of course, maybe the war unites the country anyway, but you know, the tradition and the king's speech, right? And you know, all of those things, those are powerful things. We need those.
Wouldn't you say that when there is monarchy, there's also faster decision making? Because if I think about like
definitely.
other countries, first, you know, it has to go through the parliament. Well, I don't even know.
Yeah,
you know,
we call
has
that the
so
slow.
many stages.
We call that the slow churn of democracy, and it takes forever. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's ups and downs to both systems. I mean, if you look at Italy and Israel, like it takes forever to make decisions in parliament because they have what is called a proportional representation system, which means that if so and so gets 5% of the votes, they get 5% of the representation, etc. And there's always a deadlock in those parliaments. So that's the downside, but the upside is that, yeah, people get to have their say. And the upside to having a tyrant or a dictator is like...
So
things happen quick.
So that can be the disadvantage, the downside of having a monarchy.
Yeah.
It can turn into tyranny.
Yeah.
Those are, if a monarch just feels too, gets greedy with power.
If Queen Elizabeth started to just let it get to her head, all of a sudden she starts telling Canada what to do, and New Zealand.
Well, if a monarch just gets too greedy or, blinded by the power, you can never be sure that they're not going, to become tyrants. Any other downsides of monarchy?
Oh
Well,
yeah, I guess the tyrant thing is pretty bad.
You've just mentioned lack of diversity in the government. So what else can there be?
Well, that's an absolute monarchy, yeah. Without a parliament. So yeah, that's a different kind of monarchy.
So that's in the case with the Netherlands. I think you said it was the Netherlands that the royal family needs a lot of money there.
Yeah, but they're very chilled out people. They're fun and but
mean,
they do cost a lot of money.
they're Dutch.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do cost a lot of money, but they're fun.
What
They're
saves
fun.
it is they're Dutch.
Yeah.
Now
They
we're
may
going
have
to lose the
absolute
Dutch.
power, but they're Dutch.
Yeah.
That's
Dutch
all.
listeners.
No problem. Right? Yes. What's the problem?
Yeah.
So would you like to live in a country with a monarchy?
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting, yeah.
That would be. You're not the one.
I don't know. I'd probably be making fun of it a lot. I'd probably be wearing a princess dress to the grocery store.
Right.
The
Walking
tiara.
around with her princess, with her
I
princess
meant
wand,
living in a
touching-
country with a monarchy, not being monarchy. The royal family.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite fascinated by the idea of going to North Korea. I mean, it's kind
Are
of
you
like
sure
a
about
monarchy.
it?
I just want to check it out just to see what
Oh.
it's
You
wanna
like.
go back?
It'd be
Yeah, you
interesting.
better not steal any posters off
Exactly,
the wall.
Mr. Warmbier.
Don't take any mementos.
Otto Warmbier learned his lesson. But yeah.
Are you allowed to go to North Korea?
You are, yeah. It
I mean, I know
Yeah.
that Russians are allowed to go there, but not
But
all of the countries are
There's
allowed
a
to go
tour
there.
group called Choreo Tours. There's 2,000 rubles for a little week tour, and you get a
You
special.
get a show.
You get a show,
of things.
the
of
show
how
of the
great it
life.
is there.
Yeah,
Get
and
a
exactly.
show.
Aren't
What,
you-
what would a show be?
I remember reading, a post in one of the bloggers who went to North Korea, and he said that a part of the program, whether you want it or not, is to go to the mausoleum to look at what's his name.
Kim Il Sung.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, Kim Il, the
Yeah.
great leader.
It's a fascinating place, albeit terrifying in many ways, but it's fascinating. It's as long as you behave and you don't take posters home with you, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. All
Just take fond memories with you. Those are okay for now.
just make sure to keep them to yourself
That's
as well,
right.
and
That's
don't
right.
spread any kind of information.
Right, no blogging about your fond memories.
Well, North Korea has the world's biggest stadium, and there they have what is called the Arirang Games.
The what?
Arirang Games, I think that's how you pronounce it. Arirang, something like that.
What is that?
It's just a celebration to the supreme leader, which might as well be a
Sounds
monarch.
about right.
And it's a beautiful, amazing spectacle. Maybe Barbara might like it because you like theatrical
I'd probably not.
performances.
I will
Look
say
at
this.
that,
No,
yeah.
I'm obsessed. I've watched so many documentaries on
Yeah.
North Korea,
Fascinating.
and it's a place I would not want to go
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly beach holiday material, and
because it's so fake. That's why. That's why.
Yeah.
It is.
There's like not any really interesting ideology or history about it at all.
the history is fascinating. I mean, it's
Oh, I don't
brutal
think-
and
yeah,
fascinating.
I don't
but
think it's fascinating.
Oh, really?
It's not as fascinating as like the Soviet Union history. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Look, obviously, yeah, we're all here because we're somewhat fascinated by the Soviet Union.
There's, since we've mentioned North Korea, there is a North Korean cafe, by the way, in Novosibirsk that
It
is run by-
closed down.
Oh, really? It did?
I heard it
Aw.
closed down. Yeah, I really wanted to go and check it
Well,
out.
do you know how
Yeah.
Kim Jil, what's his name? Kim
Which one?
Il-young.
Kim Il Sung?
No, the
Kim
last one.
Jong-il?
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un.
Do you
yeah.
know how he supports his nuclear program? It's through these workers. These workers
it's
go
terrible.
to other countries like Russia, North Korean workers,
Yeah, the
and they don't
loggers.
get paid. and all the money, because there's some kind of big money contract or something.
Yeah.
And all this money is funneled to this nuclear program.
Yeah, there's an interesting documentary about that where they are essentially lumberjacks and they
Right.
and they sell the wood and they don't
Lumberjacks
get-
and even in construction too.
Yeah,
You do love your documentaries, don't you, Benjamin?
I do like one. Yeah.
All right. Well, I sometimes wonder what would Russia look like if it was still, a monarchy. We're not going to find out, but just curious.
Well, good thing we have managed democracy here.
Uh-huh. Right.
Right.
Not going to comment on that.
Okay. Speaking about freedom, go to freedomhouse.org. This is an organization that measures democracy across the world. And you can click on an interactive map and on all of
Find Russia on the floor.
Yeah. And you can see how democracy has declined. And they, the 100 points. So the Netherlands have 100 out of 100. Canada is like 98 out of 100.
But what is considered because there's no such thing as like a pure democracy.
No, well,
whereby-
freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom for so fair and free elections, free internet,
Yeah.
freedom for civil rights, and the United States, unfortunately, 83 out of 100.
83?
83.
Well, it's kind of a good- well,
we
still
are
a good
on.
result.
No, we're on the decline. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder where Russia is.
Well, 20 out of 100.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have
Or
North Korea,
China
Turkmenistan.
7 out of 100, and Iran even is higher than China. But go to this place, freedomhouse.org. It's a great organization.
Yeah, it's curious. Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna leave this this room thinking a lot about what Russia would look like if we still had monarchy. Still, yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. It was really fun to talk about all these serious things, actually, if you think about that. So, and that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed monarchies, royal family, British royal family in all the detail, including all the gossip maybe. So thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you're always welcome to our website, which is
BigAppleSchool.com.
/podcast. Yay!
Podcast. All right.
I can see Gary mouthing, thank you to Benjamin.
Yeah, he see, we're taking up the baton. We're
Yes.
dividing the duties effectively. Division of labor. I like that.
Fantastic. Democracy, I guess.
Democracy at its finest. Yes.
So if you go to that website, you can find full scripts of each episode there, and you can read the script while listening to the podcast. So that's amazing. And if you want to get even more content, which will help you learn English, you can follow us on any social media where you are, such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram. We are everywhere. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. So that was Katja, and my guests for today were
Varya.
Gary?
And Mr. Benjamin.
Stay tuned, and we'll see you around.